We already know that a triple Aqua team can do very well in Origin, but do you know what makes triple Aqua so good? In the team that I'm currently running, it's not a perfect one. I really couldn't be bothered to get all of the Soul Star Aquas with tiny fans and telescopes because they went quite expensive, and I think this team will get nerfed, so don't buy it based off of this video. The back lane Aqua I got for like $23, so that was a steal, but on the front lane I'm running Calcium Armor. Now I think Calcium Armor is actually bugged because it says at the beginning of your round, gain shield equal to 3% of max HP, whereas it gives you a shield every turn. So that's definitely bugged. I'm running a Bubble Maker and Sponge for the extra shield, and on the mid and back lane I'm running double Heart of the Ocean. And the reason I'm doing that is so I can get my front lane as healthy and as tanky as I can, whilst also dealing mad amounts of damage with the coins, the gold stars. The one tricky thing that I'm running is a retain on the Soul Star, so that I can finish off my opponent whenever I can. And let's jump into the first game to see how this team does. Now I'm going to be casting these games from the replays because you can speed them up, and I think Origin, when it comes to videos, the games are relatively long compared to V2. So let me know in the comment section down below, would you like me to cast from live games or from replays to make it a little bit quicker? The first team that I'm facing is Beast on the front lane with Pangolin Scale. That runes make sure that you take 25% less damage, but you cannot gain shield. And then the mid lane is running a Heart of the Ocean, and back lane running some more damage. So you can see the amount of health and shield I have on that front lane. That is 640 health while also having 100 shield and dealing some decent damage. Obviously he has the Pangolin Scale, so he's going to be taking a little bit less damage. Risky Fish, another card that I think is going to get nerfed a little bit. The weak being applied to self for 2 turns is definitely not enough, and you can see 1 energy cost dealing about 100 damage. Just ridiculous. I have double Lamb. I couldn't really get the Risky Fish because they went up in price. Soul Star being a 50 damage. I think they need to lower the threshold a little bit, make it 100, but now I really like running the Oranda because I'm not sure if this is intentional or not, but Oranda actually dispels runes as well, so you can see that he no longer has Pangolin Scale on his front lane beast. So Oranda is insanely useful when you're running versus things such as the Pangolin Scale, when you're running versus Calcium, when you're running versus Regenerator. It dispels that rune. I'm not sure whether it's intentional, really. It seems to be a little bit too powerful. I think the runes cannot just be debuffed like that, especially because some of them show, some of them don't show. I'm also running a bubble paste on my Gil, which already gives me 2 bubbles using just 1 card. I think that's the best way to use it, because I'm taking less damage every single turn, making my front lane even more tanky. You can see 30 shield right at the start, going for the Goldfish so I can have 1 more card to play with. I got the double clear, I got the Nemo, but I should be able to finish this beast off with my Soul Star. That's why I'm running a retain, so that I'll always have my Soul Star ready whenever I need to play a Bubble Maker for the extra bit of damage. But also look at the shield, 130 shield. This is definitely bugged. Don't abuse it, guys, but I mean, it's in the game, so why wouldn't you really run it? 30 shield every single turn with max HP runes. I'm running a max HP on every single of these cards. The Robin is kind of screwing up my build a little bit, because I would rather have a little bit more health from the runes, but it is what it is. That's the only aquas that I have, so that's why I run. You can see the Lamb dealing 105 damage based off of the damage boost that I get. Even through 2 bubble stacks, it still deals a crap ton of damage, and you can see how my opponent is struggling now. He's got 2 decent cards. He's going to take me out with those, but he's got the revenge cards, and he has a mid lane that's already down to 270 health. I used to run a run that was giving me extra damage, but I no longer do that. I think Heart of the Ocean is the best rune that you can get with the extra max HP. You already have enough HP, you don't need to play it anymore from your runes, from your charms rather, and then you can run damage on your charms, and you don't really need a rune for that. So I think Heart of the Ocean, definitely a broken one that provides you with a lot of damage. You can see the Soul Star being remained, so whether I get revenge cards or whether I get normal cards, I can always use that Soul Star to finish off my opponent when I need to. My opponent draws 4 revenge cards and a Risky Fish. I think he's gonna use the Risky Fish. He definitely should do that. 240 health on my mid lane, 8 damage. boost, so I should be getting some extra damage off that. Now, running a Gil in the mid game, I'm not sure whether that's the best option because I reduce one bubble stack, so my opponent actually deals more damage than he used to. But we'll see whether we can make it through that. Nemo healing me for 25, but I only have one bubble stack and only 30 shield, so that mid lane is probably as good as dead this turn. Let's look at what my opponent plays. Goldfish, Gil and Soulstar, not enough to take it down actually. So this should be quite an easy win from here on out, especially that I'm drawing cards that are on the offensive, so there's not really a chance for me to screw this game up anymore. The Oranda doesn't help, but the double Goldfish will be able to take care of the job. I should play a Lamb now, and then a Soulstar, and let's call it a day in the first game. All of these games are happening on Challenger level, so it's not like I'm farming the games on some lower level. But you can see that the triple koi, or triple aqua rather, with one koi is doing just fine. And let's jump into one more game to show you what else this team can do. In the second game, I'm running versus a starter Axie team. So you see that starter Axies are good enough to make it into the high ranks. My opponent goes for the tiny dino from his front lane, running the Heart of the Ocean on the front lane actually, and then the double beasts mid lane and back lane with Endless Anger. Now, Endless Anger is very useful, gives you those crits when you reach 10. Oranda actually dispels those Endless Anger runes as well, so if you can have a targeting charm on your Oranda, you can do it that way, or you can just crack the front lane as quick as you can and use the Oranda on a mid lane beast. But I was running an Oranda with a targeting charm, and it really was working, especially when you start running versus some beasts on the back lane. You can get rid of that rune, and then you can play a safe game after that. You can see the Gil giving me 2 bubble stacks. I went for the Soulstar and it didn't really work, even though he was 120 health. I think he has to be below that threshold. If I used the Robin before my Gil, then I would have made it, but it is what it is. I had to use all of my cards to get rid of that Aqua. Definitely a mistake on my part from queuing up the cards, but now I have the Robin buff and I should be getting something decent as well. This is an interesting solve. For every single fallen Axie, you get 13 bonus damage per card, so on something like the back lane, after 2 of your Axies fall, it can definitely help. The Robin actually saved me 120 health on my backlane Axie, because he had the targeting card, and I placed a Robin there. Clamshell getting that 4 damage boost, as always helpful, just to get that little bit of extra damage. It can save you the game. 102 shield on my front lane. I'm not sure how my opponent is going to crack through that. Actually 170, and I think I'm going to get another 30 from the rune as well, so that's 450 on my front lane and a bubble stack. My opponent is sitting on a Fury, so he can do some damage there. Goes for the Goldfish, goes for the Nutcrack, and let's see whether Bubba Brush can finish me off here. Doesn't look like he's gonna go for it. Rather than that, he just goes for the revenge cards, because he didn't want to proc a anger on his back lane, because he didn't have the runes for it, or the cards rather, so he didn't want to use the rune. I went for the Oranda so that he no longer gets stacks on those mid lanes. I'm not sure whether that was the best play. I just wanted to use that card for my front lane. And you can see that he goes for the Forest Hero, 278 damage. A little bit wasted on that way, but there was no other play that he could have made that was more efficient. But it hurts to see hitting me for 280 when the front lane was already quite low. Lamb Soulstar will take care of that mid lane, and then we can attack the back lane as well. 120 damage, and you can see the Robin stacks adding up, especially when your opponent doesn't have a bubble, doesn't have any shield. You can really get rid of that one quickly. Now that I'm sitting on 2 bubble stacks and a very healthy set of Axies, that's 500 health on each, he would have to go into the rage mode and then draw some decent cards to try and play through that. He activates the rage at the end of the turn, which is not the best use case for it, and this should be quite an easy game. After that, I can even go for the Gil to get some extra damage off of that. Go for the Goldfish. I actually drew 3 Goldfishes. That's never helpful, but it is what it is. So I spam all of those. Go for the Nemo to heal myself, and that's gonna be the end of that turn. Maybe I should have went for the Gil just to get that extra like 20 or 40 damage on top, and then I can finish him off with just 1 card. Not sure why the goldfish has stayed with me. I think that's a visual bug. You can actually press on that card, but I remember that game in the bug. That bug in the game where I couldn't really play any cards because the goldfish was in that space, and I drove extra cards on top of the goldfish. You can see that. A visual bug. But I do get the koi, and I can finish the game right there. So you can see the power of the triple aqua. You get a tank on the front thing, you get a load of damage, you get a load of health, and then you can use all of your charms to be getting even more damage on the mid lane and the back lane, and just get those bubbles with the bubble paste as well, so that your opponent doesn't cut through your Axies too quickly. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think about this team, and how do you think this team will do versus some other ones like the Gloomy Dice. I don't think this team does very well versus Gloomy Dice, but it is what it is. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel for daily playthrough and content, and I will see you in the next one.